I'm really excited that this year I get to take part in the Maratona Dolomites. It's a sportive that I've been wanting to participate in for years now. It's in a really beautiful part of the world in the Dolomites, and it's a really iconic, tough sportive. It's just a bit of a hitch in that now that I'm presenting at GCN, I don't have quite so much time to train because, it takes up a lot of hours of the day, analysing wind tunnel test results and learning to mispronounce Spanish names and checking whether those hacks are viable. So I'm going to have to learn to train in a more time-efficient way. Now, this is a problem that I know a lot of you contend with. Cycling's a very time-consuming sport, and if you're planning to take part in a long event, how on earth do you fit in all those training hours around your job, your family, maybe even a social life? Well, the good news is that you can actually structure your training to be really time-efficient and less time-consuming, and still make real fitness gains that will stand you in good stead for your big target. All it takes is a bit of planning, organisation, and discipline. Yep, self-discipline is clearly a major factor because once you've planned the training, you still have to actually do it. The good news is that I'm pretty certain that self-discipline is also trainable, which is good news for those of us, like everyone, who is secretly lazy on the inside. Now, you might be wondering, who the hell am I to give advice on training around a job and with time constraints? Well, I was extremely fortunate to be a professional athlete for a few years when I could train full-time. But actually for many years, I combined racing at the highest level with a job. Although, to be fair, for a few years I did work part-time and I could be pretty flexible with my hours. But I did still have to learn to juggle work and training, and I'll give you a few more tips on that later. First, I need to plan my Maratona training, and I thought I'd ask Matt for some advice here. Hi, Matt. So, Matt raced very successfully whilst having a full-time job. In fact, he was national champion of 7 to 9 hours of training a week? Yeah. So I think his advice is pretty worth listening to.
Well, Emma, thanks for having me along, but what exactly can I help you with?
Well, I'm planning to ride the Maratona this year, and you've done it yourself, and so it's pretty challenging. And, back in the day, I'd do a lot of long rides and races and riding with friends to try and get fit, but I don't have as much time now. So I was wondering, maybe you could tell me what, really key sessions I have to fit into a week.
Well, the key elements of riding something like the Maratona or a sportif of a similar distance and a similar terrain is endurance, basically, because they're long events. And also, of course, the very long climbs that you have to tackle in the Dolomites, for example. Yeah, and
like Ramparth, there are no climbs as long as those Dolomite mountains, so I'm going to be totally rubbish. What can I do?
Well, you can be far better than totally rubbish. You don't necessarily need a climb to improve your climbing. You need to train your FTP, so you need to aim to include between 1 and 2 FTP sessions per week in your training.
That sounds a bit painful, to be honest.
It's painful, but very, very effective, and it doesn't take too long at all. A session like 3 by 8 minutes, 110% your FTP, does the trick, or an hour at sweet spot, which is around 80 to 90% of your FTP, with some acceleration spaced out throughout the hour. You're writing all this down, aren't you?
Yeah.
You just need a quieter section of road so you avoid stop pedaling, basically.
Yeah, or I guess an indoor trainer could be pretty helpful for this kind of session.
Oh, definitely. It's a real controlled environment, and I must admit, I used a home trainer at least 2 or 3 times a week when I was training full-time.
Wow. So I've seen that somewhere you've got a 20-minute FTP session up there. Super time efficient.
It is pretty brutal. It's one of our hardest. It's a 20-minute HIIT session. A couple of those a week will really see massive benefits.
Yeah, wow, cool. So that's pretty good. Is there anything else I should include in my plan, do you think?
You definitely want to make sure that you include variability in your training plan. It will help you keep you fresh and also help maintain your enthusiasm. So I'd recommend some shorter hill reps, so basically HIIT sessions on climbs.
Ouch.
There's a lot of ouch, but it's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, good point. Okay, thanks, Matt. What about strength endurance? So I've got friends who race, and they are mad on this strength endurance, like this overgeared stuff.
Strength endurance is something that I put in when I'm out on the road and also on the indoor trainer. So basically, within a sweet spot session, I might throw in 5 or 6 1-minute reps, but really overgeared and out the saddle. Again, it's essentially like gym training on a bike.
Cool. So that's great. It looks like between SE and sweet spot and functional training power and threshold power and endurance, I'm going to have a session to do every week. Great.
No, you shouldn't be doing a hard session every day. That's a real common mistake, and you'll end up very, very tired, and actually you'll lose the efficiency and the efficacy of your training. Make sure you have a couple of rest days, and arguably, more importantly, even a nice cafe stop with a bit of cake.
That is the kind of advice I like. Thanks, Matt. Any other tips?
A good tip is, first and foremost, to plan your training. So write it down. That way you're far more likely to stick to it, as you're doing there. But don't only write it down, actually record your results. And most importantly, how you feel. It gives you a nice journal to reflect back on. And you can basically see where you've made any mistakes or where you've particularly done things well that have basically positively affected your training.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. That's brilliant. Right, so to summarise what I should try and fit into a weekly training plan. An FTP session once to twice per week, high intensity interval training once a week around FTP training, an endurance ride once or twice a week, and either strength endurance or core once or twice a week. And the coffee ride once a week at least. So that's the plan. Now I've got to try and implement it. So I'm going to give you 7 of my tips for how to try and stick to a training plan. As Matt said, it really helps to follow the plan if you've written it down. I mean, that's a method of feeling accountable, and that's a way to help with your self-discipline. But when you're making the plan, you have to be realistic and honest about what you can fit into the week. I mean, it's fantastic to be enthusiastic. It's essential to be motivated, in fact. But if you're unrealistic and over-ambitious in your plan, then there's a strong chance that you won't be able to stick to it, and you'll end up feeling disappointed and guilty. If you overtrain, your work and your family life will suffer, and there's also a strong chance that you'll stick to it for 1 week, then not at all, and that is no help in getting fitter. Consistency is the important thing. One huge session or one huge week does not make you fit, whereas chipping away week after week is what makes the difference. So you're better off erring on the side of caution when planning your training. As I said before, consistency is key, and you can help yourself to be consistent by making your training part of your weekly routine, and by being smart with use of time. So if, for example, you have to commute to work and it's possible to do it by bike, that's a great opportunity to make use of the time to train. For your midweek sessions, you can extend your route a little if it's not long enough. An indoor trainer can be hugely helpful in terms of getting training sessions done with minimum fuss, especially those more intense FTP and high intensity sessions. It doesn't take long to set up, it doesn't take long to get dressed. I find that minimum layers are best because the indoor trainer is always a sweat fest. And there's also no time wasted on freewheeling, traffic lights, punctures. I mean, not to mention the fact that the weather is not a factor at all. So if you have access to an indoor trainer, use it. In fact, I did most of my intense training for the Taiwan KOM last year on my Wahoo Kicker using Zwift. I even quite enjoyed it. That's the advantage of smart trainers and Zwift. Right, personally, I like to get any hard training done first thing in the morning, rather than leaving it to the evening, because it sets me up for a good day, although potentially also nodding off at the GCN HQ. But everyone is different, and some people do prefer to train in the evening. I just know that if I'm tired or something comes up, my training's likely to suffer or just fall by the wayside. So I'd rather get up a bit earlier and get it done. Training with other people also helps because if you've arranged to meet someone for a ride, that's another form of accountability. Not to mention that it's also more fun to have company. And I think fun is important because cycling should be fun. I mean, if you enjoy your training, you'll stay enthusiastic and motivated. I know that riding with people stronger than me is what really helped me to become a better cyclist. And I made some really great friends along the way. Now to a topic that I really love, snacks. Plan your nutrition and be smart with meals. Remember that you need calories both to fuel good quality training and to recover afterwards. And you're better off getting those calories from a well-balanced meal or a healthy snack. If you plan ahead and take a healthy lunch or breakfast into work with you, it can help you to resist the temptation of the relatively unhealthy, or not to mention expensive, food that is so readily available. Me, I'm very into my snacks, and I often take my breakfast into work to eat straight after training. You have to plan recovery into your week. Training itself doesn't actually make you fitter, it's the recovery to that training stimulus that makes you stronger. Skimp on the recovery, and you won't make improvements. Training hard is already an extra load, added into your busy life. And when time is short, I know that I often tend to sacrifice sleep, which is stupid because if you don't recover well, you risk getting overtrained or sick, and neither of those will move you forward in your goals. So listen to your body. Make sure to plan in the time to recover. As Matt said, a coffee and cake ride at least once a week. I hope this helps if you're planning to take part in a big event in 2018. I know you'll get real satisfaction from training efficiently. So feel free to leave your comments or questions below and give it a thumbs up. Coming up, I'll show you a few of those training sessions built into my work commute. It's the commuter session series, so watch out for those videos. And in the meantime, check out this video that Matt made for an indoor training session, just 20 minutes long, to train your FTP with surges.